You guys know I like storytelling, right? But did you notice how driving around and being epic gamers takes away from our reading time? Well, thanks to today's sponsor, Audible, we can multitask like crazy while being lazy and listening to tales of yore and more. I got to listening to Stephen King's The Stand, which I thought was about stand powers, but about halfway through listening, I realized that it's actually about a manufactured virus that was released into the population and killed like everyone. Such an interesting horror concept. You can enjoy it yourself by going to audible.com/runesmith or texting runesmith to 500-500. It's just shy of 50 hours worth of free content, and it's my gift to you. But my generosity never ends. I begged and begged, slamming on their door until they let me give you a 30-day free trial and access to their super secret Audible Plus catalog. Okay, now I can afford this video, here you go. Hello, I'm a guy who's played through an entire season of Dragon Heist and hasn't finished a campaign in any other supplement. So yeah, I'm very qualified to make a video praising this book above all others, so let's get into it. Waterdeep Dragon Heist is a campaign guide that starts just after a noble is voted out of office while being outside the city. But as a noble, he naturally embezzled 500,000 gold coins from the city and instantly made plans to smuggle his ill-gotten wealth outside. However, this plan is stopped by a sudden turn of events, and the key to his hidden vault becomes, well, a key plot point to the game. The players are put up against a gallery of villains, all of which want the money for different reasons, and naturally, so do the players. That's a really great setup for villains according to the anatomy of story. A good antagonist needs to have the same goals as the protagonist, but uses means that conflict with the hero's morality, or just their goal. I mean, stories are really simple if done right. Drama comes from conflict, and two kids fighting over a toy they both like is the only story that anyone can and has ever told. History is just different kids fighting over different toys. But let's look at this network of enemies that we've made for ourselves by being greedy. Starting with arguably one of the greediest. Xanathar is a monster that is a reflection of anxiety, the general feeling of unease and a lack of safety. Beholders are forced to witness everything around them, as unfamiliar as all of it is, and then try to form a plan to survive on what's essentially a different planet. Xanathar is an especially successful case, even though it can never truly feel at home. It throws itself into this ring, even though it's immortal and wealthy beyond measure, because it actually wants the magic key called the Stone of Galore, which is just a super smart wizard in a soulstone. Xanathar is insane, but believable in all their motives and interests. It doesn't ever act out of malice, only paranoia. It's a prisoner of the assumption that everyone wants to kill it. It doesn't even hate the party outright and is willing to work with them to take the stone if it can confirm their trust. It also finds incredible enjoyment in the least dangerous of its possessions, and in a weird way it empathizes with its pet fish. It loves that thing, and I love my fish, so I get it. As the story develops, its fear and lack of trust causes it to develop and become more greedy. It feels as though the gold will never be safe in its current vault if people are aware of it, so it decides that the gold would best be kept under its own watch. But good villains aren't about their portfolios, they're about relationships. And Xanathar's strongest relationship is with the thing that it fears most, the Open Lord of Waterdeep, the city itself. This is our next hidden villain, and the one that Xanathar will never approach or attack in any way, out of fear. And that's an unintentional side effect of how Laeral Silverhand, the Lord of Waterdeep, presents themselves. Where Xanathar acts using no authority and no confidence, Laeral acts with more confidence than anyone else in Waterdeep. But this is also a different type of front, a lie told out of fear of conflict. Laeral isn't quite as powerful as they appear, but if they were to show any weakness, the entire city would instantly collapse into a civil war. The only thing that they fear, just like Xanathar, is their own employ. The leader of the city's secret service is the wielder of something called Blackstaff, the most powerful staff in the city, and a magic item that contains the soul of Laeral's dead husband. The secret service is called Force Grey, that operates of its own accord, even though it's not supposed to. The fear of her subordinate and the wielder, Vajra, causes her to restrict their freedoms, but the restriction causes them to act without the authority that they should be given, which is the vicious cycle that all politics eventually crumble in the face of, because of rebellion. But rebellion is not an option when you're afraid of what you might lose, which brings us to the third villain, the Castelanters. They are already the victims of a mistake and have technically already lost their fight. They're just trying to fix it. To explain, they fell far out of wealth some time ago, but their greed and desire for security, freedom, and authority led them to Asmodeus. You know, one of the 5 most powerful things in the known universe and the king of hell. Basically asking the guy for a crumb of his infinite power, he agreed in return for the souls of their own children. Victoro Castellanter and his wife are assholes, but to them this was a temporary means to an eventual end, because now they're working to get back the souls of 2 of his 3 children by paying Asmodeus back with a lot of gold and the souls of useless drunkards. Their plight is essentially that railroad dilemma. Do you save people that you don't know or don't care about, or do you save your children's souls from forever fighting in an eternal war? No one should have to make a choice that resembles that, but they trapped themselves in it because they didn't want to be poor. And all they need now is the same wealth that everyone is after. Ironically, our next villain is exactly like Victoro Castellanter before his contract. Jarlaxel, the sexy pirate drow guy. This is the classic handsome rogue character, much like Sparrowjack. My favorite aspect of Jarlaxel comes from his team of pirates. Drow culture is a matriarchy, much like how American culture used to be a patriarchy, and is at risk of returning to that very quickly. So in a way, you could relate him to being a rare female pirate, who comes from a place with no respect for him or his fellow men, and is looking to prove himself and his people. He's a pirate, but he's also a freedom fighter. He's after the pile of money for the most respectable reason in my opinion, but uses some of the seediest means. In a way, he's kind of the lord of his own city that he worked to bring order to, and he wants to pay his way into politics so he can prove his city is a real one, even though a bunch of political assholes say he'll never be a real person or a real ruler, unless he gives them a bunch of money. Last villain I want to cover, aside from the thickened gallery of factions like the technical heir of the wealth or the Harpers, is Manchun, the least relatable villain, but the most dangerous. Relatability does not mean believability, and there are a lot of real-world examples of that. Hell, believability doesn't even mean realistic, but Manchun is one of the few clones that survived a clone war, where all clones were the same super-powerful, egotistic archwizard king god. Like a dark parody of Xanathar and a reflection of Laurel, with the greed of the Castelanters and the desire for power of Jarlaxel, Manchun wants everything to be his. He works entirely in the shadows, like an unseen and unstoppable force, quietly commanding portions of his enemies' employ to bring about their downfall. It can be said that the wisest tactician never sees a single enemy face to face and crushes his enemies without ever using force. He wants to pay off a secret council of lords to make him the king of Waterdeep, effectively using the enemy's weapons against them and only killing one person to win that war. They're all reflections of each other, and in certain ways their tactics and motives are likely to reflect the players themselves. I love this book.